Welcome back guys, Harry here, known as Tradesharpe, and after today's video, I want you guys never to view stop losses the same way again. I'm going to give you an advanced and in-depth way of placing stop loss and how to really use them and what they're meant for. Because as you become a better trader, the idea of a stop loss starts to change. Because when you're a beginner trader, the idea of a stop loss is to protect your trade so you don't lose enough money. When you're an advanced trader, your stop loss is there just as maximum protection. So we're going to exactly talk about that to make sure that you guys understand what a stop loss is really meant for and where to place them ideally, and how you can manipulate what to do with your trade while having your stop loss in sensible places. So that being said, let's get on to the topic of stop losses. I'll catch you on the screen. Alright guys, so before we get into the video talking about how to place your stop losses, we need to do the YouTube business as usual. So if you guys are new to the channel, leave a like. If you're not new to the channel, also leave a like. But if you are new, leave a subscribe. It really does help the channel. And if you do have any questions about the video or want to join a very good community that's safe and a great place to learn and get a lot of value, the Discord community down below, the free one, is definitely a good place to have a look, and it's for free to join. So you might as well join it and just see if you can gain value. You don't lose anything for doing that, right? And yeah, you know, you do the YouTube business, just support the channel. It's a free way to give back. I put a lot of effort into the channel for you guys, and I do appreciate the feedback you give me. It does keep me going, and it makes me happy to see people are benefiting from this information. So, you know, just support the Tradesharpe community. That's what I'm basically out saying. So with that being said, also leave a follow on my Instagram. Yeah, just support everything. And yeah, with that being said, let's get straight into the video. All right, so when it comes to stop losses, I know you guys want the smallest stop losses and the biggest targets, but in reality, trading works on basically, if you do one method, you have to sacrifice something. And if you sacrifice another thing, it gains in another thing. So what I mean by that is, if you guys are going to go with the method of having a small stop loss, big targets, then you're going to sacrifice the amount of setups you have. Because running small stop losses in the market is a very risky thing, and you have to do it only from very specific zones, or look to have a very specific strategy that allows you to run small stop losses, or trade a pair that allows you to have small stop losses, right? If you're trading a pair that's very volatile, having a small stop loss will probably end up in you losing the trade, and that's not what we want, right? So it's also very important to understand that we need to find a stop loss that we can have as small as possible, as well as giving the trade enough breathing room for our idea to play out. Because the way that I trade is I rely heavily on my analysis to play out during the day, and I basically find an entry. So if I put my stop loss too tight and the market decides to pull back a little, I may be stopped out before price continues. But in order to prevent that, I make sure to put my stop loss in logical places depending on what setup I take. So don't try chase tight stop losses, try chase profitable trades. That is what I like to go by. And the main mindset, and this is what I mean that you guys are never going to view stop losses the same, is that for me, stop loss is not something that's very important, because I'm focusing what am I going to do when my trade's in profit. If you guys are focusing on the stop loss, means that most of your trades are going in drawdown or going in negative, and that is why you're focusing so much on the stop loss. You're like, oh, I need to manage risk. But in reality, you should have focused on trying to get better entries on your trades, because that will avoid you going in drawdown, right? So if we can avoid drawdown, then we avoid the question of stop loss being hit. And that is more important than, you know, looking for ideal stop loss placements, because that means we will win more trades if our entries are accurate and if most of our trades go to TP. So essentially, once you start to become an advanced trader, stop losses are just there as a maximum get out. So if it hits this area, I'm done, and that's it. So we're going to talk about a few basic types of stop losses here. So first basic type of stop loss here is when we have a scenario like this, saying we're taking a buy above here. Essentially, where you should always keep your stop loss below is below structure, right? And this is where the smart money concept traders are going to come, and they're going to say, oh, if you keep your stop loss below here, you're going to be swept, and it's gonna kill all your stop losses. Well, no. If we're trading from here to here, that's our move, our stop loss is going to be fine. If we're trading this move, our stop loss is also going to be fine, and it keeps us safe, right? And that's where the smart money concept traders, or whoever believes in that type of concept, I'm not putting you guys down, but that's where our strategy is different, because maybe they're looking for buys when price comes back to this zone and does something like this, which if it works for them, leave that. But I rather be done with my trade. If price is here, I need to take a trade in this zone. I like to trade what I see, not what I want price to do exactly in order for me to take a setup. I like to see what's in front of me, and I ask myself the question, how am I going to get involved in this move? So simply, the rule is we always want to keep our stop loss below relevant structure, because that's where we're wrong. We always have to ask ourselves when we're taking a trade, where are we wrong? When you can answer that question, that is where your stop loss should essentially be realistically, right? Is where you are wrong. How do you know you're wrong? Well, if you're looking for a buy and price starts to break structure, you're obviously wrong. So let's take a more complicated scenario, and let's take a scenario where price something like this has closed above this type of resistance and we're looking for price to continue up, which is a trade we would normally take. Where are you going to keep stop loss, right? This is a very, very interesting question here, because ideally where your stop loss should be is all the way down below here to give yourself a lot of room for this trade to play out. But in reality, we know that this type of setup is a setup that we expect to get a nice push out of the move, and we don't need to be running such big stop losses. Instead, what we can do is just run the stop loss below these lows here, and we know that fine. If price is to break the high and continue, A, it should not be breaking back into this range, and B, it should not break below the support. If anything's breaking below the support and then eventually breaks this wicks, we're going to be out and we're going to be wrong anyways, right? So this is an area where we are going to be wrong quickly because it has broke structure. This support is basically the same as this thing here, right? That's what that has done. So in this scenario, we're keeping the stop loss below the previous candle here, because that is where the support basically is, and that is where we're going to be wrong, right? So let's take another example here. Let's say we're buying from the bottom of the range here. In this scenario, since we're buying the pullback, we're relying that this is the pullback is going to be finished. So this is a scenario where we're either wrong or we're right, because this is the confirmation candle, 15-minute close bullish. So we're either wrong in this scenario or we're right. So there's no way to, ideally you want to put your stop loss much lower like this to give yourself some space, but that's not going to work. So what we do is we just keep it below the lows here, below this candle, and you're either wrong or right. Okay, so you're relying that this is support is created, that you trust this support to be created to continue price towards the upside. And that's why we use confirmation of 15-minute, 30-minute and all of this, and do our whole analysis to be sure that when this confirmation comes, we are comfortable taking the trade and comfortable holding our stop loss below here, because that is where we're going to completely be wrong, right? So we're just putting our stop loss where we completely be wrong. And also guys, if you're a beginner watching this video, don't do this BS dragging your stop loss lower and lower to think that your idea makes sense. That doesn't make any sense. Your stop loss is there. There's no question after that. If you want to close the trade earlier, that's a different story. That's maybe another video talking about managing trades, but in reality, stop loss stays exactly where you initially put it, right? So that's super, super important. The next one here is the same type of thing. Breakout trade here. You'll have to go below this candle here when you're taking this type of breakout trade, right? If you're more advanced, you can use lower time frame to find a place. So this is where we can say, okay, fine, we have a range here, price is broken out the range. I can just hover my stop loss here, because if price breaks in this range after closing so strong, I'm wrong anyways, right? Same thing here. This stop loss has to go below structure here. Stop loss has to go below the structure here. There's no questions about that. Stop loss has to go below the structure, because that's only where you're going to be wrong. Price can mess about as much as it wants here and you're not going to be wrong. But as soon as it breaks the structure, that's where you're going to be wrong, and that's where you have to be out of the trade, right? So that's super, super important to understand. This was a news candle, does not count. So apart from that, let's take this scenario that's right here. Let's say price closed above right here. Where do you think, guys? So pause the video and ask yourself, where do you think stop loss is going to go if we're taking a position here? Do you think it's going to go here, or is it going to go down here for 27 pips? I'll give you guys some time to think. So whoever said that putting the stop loss down here, that is correct and the safest option. But if we rely on volume, we can keep it below here, because this is the most recent structure. We expect price to break this zone and just continue up here. If anything fails and starts to close below here, then we're going to essentially be wrong, and we can happily be wrong. Instead of running a bigger stop loss and now you have to hold a trade that sits for ages in drawdown, you have to look back at your trade and ask yourself, okay, was I wrong in my analysis? Maybe my entry was wrong. Maybe I was too early to enter. Whenever your trade goes in loss, you have to realize either you were wrong in analysis, you entered too early, or you were just not following a plan, or you don't have a system that works. If you have a system that works, then those are the only things that can go wrong. So let's take an example of something like this here, where if let's say you're taking a break of these highs here, once price closed above the range here to continue up bullish, and you hovered stop loss below this zone, this candle here, and that candle stopped you out. I think safe stop loss should be below the maximum wick here, just for 20 pips. I think that would have been a lot safer here. But let's say you decided to hover stop loss somewhere here because in the moment that seemed like the best idea, right? When this candle comes and stop you out, you have to look back and say, this is not a stop hunt, this is not a liquidity grab. This was simply you entering too early, or since you entered from the highs, you need to give yourself more room, because price pulling back to here has not broke structure, has not broke back inside the range here. Nothing has changed in the trade. It's a pullback to continue. So hovering stops here was actually wrong, right? And in reality, this was just entering a bit too aggressively. But when you do that aggressive entry, you need to understand that, yeah, your trade still made sense. Nothing really changed here. Only thing that happened is we had a pullback, it broke the lows and then continued, right? But we did not break structure. There was no structure formed that was broken here. Maximum where you're wrong is if price broke back into the range, which it didn't. It just retested the top of this range and continued up bullish. So I want you guys to take these tips and implement it into your own trading, and implementing it when deciding when to put a stop loss, because you're going to find your trading very difficult running 4 pip stop loss, especially on a pair like GJ, when in reality it's a bit tough to do that. Like, you have to have very accurate zones, and I don't personally like it because it's more stressful. I rather give my whole idea a whole plan, and that allows me to have more accuracy. There's many ways to trade. I'm not telling you guys that you have to run these type of stop losses, but from my experience, this is the best way I found to run my stop losses, and it's what's helped me to maintain profitability and yeah, have good results in the long run, because that's what counts, right? So I hope you guys can take some of these ideas, and maybe it will help you in deciding how to view stop losses and how to use them in the future. And make sure to focus on your trades in profit, because that's the goal, right? If your trades are ending up in loss, you're focusing on the wrong thing and you're looking in the wrong area. Focus on getting trades that go into profit. That is the main goal. So that being said, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope this was a useful video for you guys. Leave a like and all of this. And with that being said, take care, trade sharp. Until next time, peace.